visit is a challenge to the authority of Xi Jinping. How much of China's words and actions were posturing? Tensions are high. The next few hours and days will determine which way this goes. Nancy Pelosi landed and left. She was in Taiwan for less than 24 hours, and now the world is facing the consequences. The Chinese military has encircled Taiwan. Flights have been disrupted. Taiwan is bracing for impact. The big question is, does Xi Jinping have the appetite for a full-fledged war? What are his options? What are his compulsions? What are the moves that his army is making? Where does this visit leave the US? What did they achieve from it? A lot of questions. Does Joe Biden want another conflict on his plate? Is this, at the end of the day, a clash of egos with 23 million lives caught in the crossfire? On Gravitas tonight, we'll bring you the updates, the analysis and the reactions as the risk of war continues to rise in the Taiwan Strait. Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan is over. It lasted barely 18 hours and it has left the world on edge. China is furious. It is responding with force. The PLA has launched what it calls targeted military operations. The Chinese military has encircled Taiwan. The situation is precarious. Even one misstep can start a war. Is China prepared to take it that far? How is Taiwan responding? And what did the US achieve from this visit? To what extent will they defend Taiwan? We'll discuss all of this and more. The Taiwan showdown is our cover story tonight. We'll start with a recap of Pelosi's visit through 6 questions and answers. And we start with the question, what? What happened in Taiwan today? Or in the last 24 hours? The US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi landed in Taiwan yesterday. She was welcomed by the Taiwanese officials, top Taiwanese officials at the airport. And this includes the Foreign Minister of Taiwan, Joseph Wu. He was at the airport too. Pelosi did not travel to Taiwan alone. 5 other American lawmakers went with her. Question number 2 is why? Why did Pelosi go to Taiwan in the first place? Apparently to show support for Taiwan's independence. China sees Taiwan as a breakaway province, and it is ready to take back this province by force if necessary. And if that happens, the US has vowed to come to Taiwan's defense. So Nancy Pelosi's visit was supposed to serve as a reminder for that, for the American commitment. Question number 3, where? Where did Pelosi go in Taiwan? Her visit was a short one. She did not even spend a full day there. Nancy Pelosi was in Taiwan's capital, Taipei. She held several high-level engagements there. Question number 4, who did Pelosi meet? All the key decision makers and stakeholders in Taiwan. In the morning, she met Taiwanese lawmakers. Then she visited the Parliament of Taiwan. There she met Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen. What did Pelosi tell her? She said America's support for Taiwan is quote-unquote ironclad. In response, President Tsai thanked Pelosi for making the trip.
Today, the world faces a choice between democracy and autocracy. America's determination to preserve democracy here in Taiwan and around the world remains ironclad.
I welcome Speaker Pelosi and the delegation to Taiwan. Thank you for taking concrete actions to show your staunch support for Taiwan at this critical moment and for expressing the United States' consistent policy supporting Taiwan's self-defense.
Before leaving Taiwan, Pelosi met human rights leaders. She even did a quick tour of a human rights museum. Yes, Taiwan has such a museum, a human rights museum, a reminder of the period when Taiwan was under martial law. And here Pelosi met activists on Tibet, Hong Kong and Tiananmen Square. Another not so subtle dig at China, you could say. Question 5, when did Pelosi leave? Earlier this afternoon, she boarded the same military plane that brought her to Taiwan. the SPAR-19 US Air Force operated Boeing C-40C. Our final and perhaps the most important question: how is China responding to Nancy Pelosi's visit? China has not taken it well. It has launched a series of military operations. Beijing has sent a warning to airlines. It has asked pilots to avoid flying around Taiwan. Same for ships. China has warned ships in the region to steer clear of Taiwan. Let me show you why. This is the map of Taiwan. Now, do you see the red blocks? There are 6 of them. Experts are calling them danger zones. And that's because the Chinese military has launched operations in these zones. Look at the map carefully again. The PLA is encircling Taiwan. They're everywhere. There are 3 danger zones in the north, 1 in the east, 1 towards the west, and 1 in the south. China has launched these operations. In fact, China launched these operations last night. China's military response is split into 3 parts. Part 1 is the exercises. The PLA has activated its naval and aerial assets. They will be conducting drills around Taiwan. Part 2 is a shooting drill. The PLA is conducting what it calls long-range live ammunition shooting. Again, this is happening in the danger zones. The Chinese military has brought out its guns. It is firing bullets into the Taiwan Strait. And part 3 of their operation is missile launches, perhaps the most dangerous component of China's plan, missile launches. The PLA will launch ballistic missiles near Taiwan. They could fly over the islands. So effectively, China has surrounded Taiwan, and this is a security nightmare for Taipei. China's moves have already disrupted flights. Taiwan has reached out to Japan and the Philippines. They're negotiating alternative flight routes. Taipei has also hit out at the Chinese government.
The reckless behavior by Communist China of conducting live fire drills in waters and skies close to Taiwan, some of which are in the neighboring waters of Taiwan, threatens international aviation routes, challenges the international order, damages the status quo in the Taiwan Strait, and destroys regional security. The National Army is determined to protect our country's sovereignty and has the ability and confidence to take on this responsibility. We will also prevent any actions that damage our national sovereignty.
China is indeed acting recklessly. This operation is dangerous for 2 reasons. One, the entire might of the Chinese military is involved. The Chinese ground forces, their navy, their air force, even the strategic missiles forces, all of them have a role to play. And reason number 2 is the language. Had it been any other situation, Beijing would have called these operations military drills. But right now, China insists that it is conducting targeted military operations. And this is happening around Taiwan. Their foreign ministry, the Chinese foreign ministry, said as much today.
We all know that China has repeatedly made clear to the US its solemn position that China firmly opposes Pelosi's visit to Taiwan through various channels and at all levels. But clearly, the US and separatist forces in Taiwan did not listen. In this case, the Chinese military can only have a dialogue with the US and the separatist forces in Taiwan in a language they can understand. The Chinese side will take all necessary measures to resolutely defend national sovereignty and territorial integrity. The US and the separatist forces for Taiwan independence should be responsible for all consequences arising from this. We will put our words into actions. As for the specific countermeasures that you asked about, what I can tell you is that what should come will come, and the relevant measures will be resolute, strong, and effective.
Let me recap that for you. We will put our words into action. We will launch countermeasures. We are talking in a language they will understand. Well, this is the language of war. China intends on carrying on its mission through this week. It says it will continue these operations till at least Friday. There has been a slew of international reactions. The US and its allies, of course, have come out in Nancy Pelosi's support. In the United Kingdom, Liz Truss has spoken out. She's a contender for prime ministership in the UK. She says Pelosi's visit was, quote-unquote, perfectly reasonable. Japan has expressed concern over Chinese operations. South Korea has called for calm. China's allies are also speaking out. Russia, for instance, has called Pelosi's visit an annoyance. Interesting choice of word, annoyance. North Korea has backed China's position on Taiwan. But what does China hope to achieve with all of this? To demonstrate power at the very least. To show that it can blockade Taiwan and make it pay for hosting Nancy Pelosi. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.